Good morning and welcome to Middle Earth Readings. Today is the 23rd of January. We're going to be looking at your week ahead, looking at wisdom weaving with the movements of the runes through the runic wheel. I don't know, I had so many problems saying that just now. I'm flying solo today. I don't have the lovely Suzanne who normally picks up everybody's runes, so apologies that I'm a bit late, but I have runes shared from Candice, Troy, Suzanne, Ren and Shanita have been sent to me in advance, so I've got those. If anyone has seen anybody posted into the group that I haven't just said, it'd be really great if you could share them as well. As you know, I come straight in to Middle Earth reading, so I don't have a chance to go and have a look through everything that's in the group. Lovely to see all of you. Hello Carolyn, lovely to see you and to see you sharing your rune of the week. So before we go into looking at personal readings with your rune of the week, just a little overview. We only have one planetary movement this week, which is right at the end of the week on the 28th, so on Thursday. I was at the end of the week. No, I'm meant to work Thursday, Saturday, the 28th, which is Suna's chariot. The sun is moving into Algiz, and this gives us our topic for today, which was brought home to me really hard actually last night. I was thinking about, what's Middle Earth Readings going to cover and looking at that, and I had a message from a friend and she left me a voice message, and I was listening to it, and when you sort of listen to something and your mouth starts to slowly drop open, because she was telling me how she received some information. It was like a little bit of a spiritual download of stuff that she needed to do, and she was like, I think that you're involved in some way or another. And basically her voice message was the answer to a problem that I have been mulling over for the last 3 months at least, and getting really frustrated with. Here is Algiz, by the way, Suna's chariot in Algiz. It is in Perth Road. At the moment, here we go, there's Perth Road. That's where we are for most of the week, but we're moving into Algiz. And I was listening, and I was just like, this is why, from my perspective, it's so important in the modern world that we start to shift the way we think about time and about energy. That we've had this very we've had an industrial model, and we've also had an agricultural model, and we've been looking at that with Jan Saxer, with our patron through January, this wild giantess. Really enjoyed her story. If you haven't listened to it yet, do have a little listen. And the agricultural cycle, which Sif in particular brings forward, the goddess of the harvest, she brings that forward. But our industrial minds, the way that we have been, you might think about it as, some people talk about it as conditioning, but the way we've been programmed, or the stories that we carry with us about an industrial way of operating are, here is the requirement, these are the number of hours I have in the day to meet the requirement, and I will do it. Is basically it. You go to a job, here's your job description, 9 to 5, you do the thing, and it's a list, and there is nothing about differences in energy, differences in when an idea might come through, differences in the way that different people operate, like optimal circumstances that are different for different people. There's very little about that. It's an industrialized model which treats us a little bit like machines, and there's been quite a big backlash against that, I think, in recent years. Certainly it's one of the reasons that I've done a lot of the training that I've done, is to look at different ways of operating in the world. And so with an agricultural cycle, we get more a sense in which we have a wintering, a period of wintering, which in the Northern Hemisphere we've been going through, when we wouldn't expect to be as productive, as sort of out there, boom, boom, boom. Then we have the spring, when new ideas come and they flourish, and we're starting to move into that space as well. And that's something that I've been working with for a long time. But last night what I was reminded of is that we also have, let's say, like a wilder, a spiritual side, which works with, it meshes with the agricultural. The agricultural cycle relies on it, but it's different and it's distinct from that. And with the half month of Perthrow, we have this rising of ideas and thoughts, and karma comes through, and all the flotsam and jetsam from the old comes through. So it's with Perthrough, there's still a little bit of releasing work that's being done. There's some things, ideas from the past, from the year that was past, that didn't come into fruition, can sometimes float up to the surface during this time. It's also very much a time when we're tapping in with the collective consciousness. And so, you know, somebody who's out on a different part of the country can have a download, let's say. For those of you who know the idea of a download, you suddenly go, oh, I've got loads of information I did not have 10 seconds ago. And they can ring somebody else, and a problem is solved through the two people coming together. But what happens is that as we move from Perthrough into Algiz, which Algiz is the rune of spiritual connection. You can imagine it as a human with their arms up to the heavens, saying, you know, help me, support me, I'm here, I want to work with you. It's also a rune of defense and protection as well, a guiding rune. It connects us with spiritual guidance, that as it starts to come through, we start to be able to unlock some of those ideas. They're not sort of floating around in the Perthrough going, oh, hello, this could be here and this could be there, and we're what's the word I'm looking for? We might have lots of ideas, but we have no idea how to move forward with them. And then Algiz comes along and it says, oh yeah, you know, we can move forward with that. And what I'm reminded of, very circular way of getting to this point, is that Algiz is the rune of the swan maiden. So the swan is attached to the Algiz rune. There's two swans that swim on the Well of Weird, which is Perthrough, is often considered to be the Well of Weird, and they're said to be white because their feathers are become white through their contact with the waters of Weird, which are often seen as being whitish or silverish. But it also reminds me of swan maidens. And I'm reminded that if we think about the Greek traditions, or maybe the sort of the Hellenic traditions, we have this idea, people talk about like a personal muse, or a genius, my genius, which was considered to be like a spirit that would come and give you ideas. In the northern tradition, we have a lot of similar, not the same, but similar beings, spiritual beings, ways of thinking. So we've got the Swan Maiden. You can see that in things like the story of Wayland the Smith. And Wayland is he is married to a swan maiden. He and his three brothers are they are married to, or in partnership with, for many years. There's their swan maiden, and their swan maidens fly away. And you could take this literally to be like they had love and then they didn't, and the two brothers go off to try and find the swan maidens, and Wayland doesn't, and his life goes downhill from that point onwards. And she could be seen as a muse who offered him ideas, or she could be seen as being like the embodiment of luck as well. So it's not just that sense of I bring ideas, it's also how they come into fruition, because Wayland does continue to create, but his creations become incredibly macabre, for very good reason. He has a tough time of it, but they're not pleasant, let's say, after this point. So there's a benevolent aspect to this too. You could also link that in with the fylgja, or the fetch, which is your personal guiding spirit. It's part of you, said to be born with you. Some people see it as an animal spirit, some people see it as like the animus or the anima, so male for a woman, female for a man, or vice versa, or just humanoid in some way. Some people see it as a light, but it's often referred to as the companion or the follower, and that attaches us to luck as well. And luck can be that creativity, that bringing forth of ideas, that ability to manifest. So the Algiz rune attaches us to all of that. And for me, it's one of the reasons that I'm running the Illuminate retreat coming up. For me, this time is a time where we're not quite in the agricultural year. We're in the time of miracles, is the way that you might want to think about it. The time when these big dreams, I was literally thinking, okay, I keep being given this thing, this really strong push to do this, but I don't know how. And it's just not coming, and I was getting frustrated. And then the right person came in and linked in with, this is what's needed. And I was like, oh, thank goodness it's all come through. So it's like that unexpected, which is where the wild part comes in, the part that Jan Saxa brings. She brings those things where I might not know how this might happen, but what would happen if I just trusted that and I went forward with it and I held it and I allowed it to sit with me for a while. So the big dreams, so we're going to be voyaging out for them through the course of Illuminate. And just before I move on to your runes, one of the things I've been deepening into recently, and I want to be bringing more of this for you, is the moons, the lunar cycle. Because we look at the runes, obviously, but the lunar cycle, not just at the moons themselves. So we've just had a new moon in Perthro, but this new moon in Perthro is also the beginning of what's referred to as Sol Monoth in the Anglo-Saxon, which I want to believe that means Sol, as in sun, as in the goddess Suna in her mother Sol. But apparently it means mud or cake. So, okay. Monath means moon or month. So we have mud month or cake month. Take your choice. I personally have been going for cake. But if you want to get your welly boots out, you can go for mud. And you can see the Anglo-Saxons, they're very practical. So there's lots of mud. So the month launches with the new moon. And then it reaches its peak at the full moon. And there is a special festival which was called Sigatibir, which wasn't Anglo-Saxon, it was Frisian, so it's over on the mainland of Europe, but it is believed that it would have been brought over in some form or another into the Anglo-Saxon as well, and that is on the full moon. And that was a time when the sailors were for the first time able to go out onto their ships and to start to voyage outwards, into the unknown, finding new places, going on raids, discovering new coasts, all of those things. So although the harvest cycle per se, the ability to plant and grow, hasn't yet opened, the cycle of the year starts to open at this point with new ventures coming, and often some of the most dangerous and risky. And this was a point on Sigatibir where they would be asking for the blessing of the gods. So they would say, please can you bless this for us? So this is a time for dreaming and new voyages and new ventures, and yes, let's eat cake, and yes, let's stomp around in the mud as well. But let's also open ourselves up to possibilities and dream the dreams that feel that little bit impossible, that feel that little bit challenging for us. So, that's what we're thinking about through the course of this week. What are your big dreams? What are the things that you're dreaming about? And for those of you who are joining me on Illuminate, that's one of the themes we're going to be working on. So let's have a look at your runes for the week. I've got lots of people here, which is wonderful. Lovely to see everybody. Let's start with what I've got. So Candice, you are there, and you have got Dargaz, which I saw ahead of time, so that is fine. So let's start with your Dargaz rune then, Candice. It's a really positive rune, resonating really nicely with this energy here of the Dargaz rune. Is there the rune of the day, the rune of light. It's a rune of contrasts as well, and what it suggests to me is almost like in the weather that we're having at the moment. The sun is bright and it's beautiful. It's absolutely piercingly, freezingly cold at the moment as well. And as we move out of this sort of wintering energy, where stillness is required, where feeling into the channels of how our energy was flowing through the last year, and recognizing that we need to shed our skins a little bit, that maybe new channels are needed. I'm certainly still aware that Perthro is bringing up stuff for me, quite old stuff as well. It's saying, the emotions that you are experiencing, the feelings that you are experiencing, the way in which the energy is flowing around you and you're responding to it is different. But these very old channels that were created in your energy system, right back when you were a child, they may never fully go. It's a little bit like you imagine a tree and its bark. So unlike human beings, trees heal around their wounds. They don't heal the wound, they move around it, so the wound stays there all of the time. And we are supposed to be descended from trees, and our bodies do that to a certain extent, particularly as we age. Our scars become part of us, and that's no bad thing. But what that does mean is that even if we have dealt with a wound, the rawness, in my case it was an illness. It was an illness that I've dealt with a long time ago now. And yet, when I have things that come into my energy system, when I have difficult circumstances, they will find that place and they will channel in there and pool in there. So that's where I look for them. So there are some things that you could still be doing which are looking at the old, but it's also that recognition that it is a gateway into the new. And that's the sense that I have with you, Candice, for the Dargaz rune at the moment, is that you can both feel behind you and in front of you, and it's being comfortable sitting in that space and saying, oh, I'm not quite sure whether I'm being asked to move backwards or move forwards. What the Dargaz rune says is you are moving forwards. Every time I bring up something for you that feels old, it's because it's necessary for the forward journey. So that's what that is inviting in there for you, Candice. And then we have Troy. So Troy, you have got Bacano, and if I remember rightly, I think that Michelle posted, was it Michelle? That Troy has Bacano pointing, facing down. Thank you, because I'd written down Bacano and I must have missed that bit. So Bacano is, again, we're thinking about seasonality, and we are moving towards the time of Bacano. So Bacano is the spring equinox falls right in the middle of the half month of Bacano. It is that rune of new beginnings and new shoots and new tender growth. It's also the rune of the dark mother of the earth, in which everything is reborn. And what's coming through for me at the moment? I suppose maybe similarly, it's because of similar to Candice, there's this sense of this duality of this energy that you're being called forward and new stuff is coming through, but it's saying tend to the past and to the soil. Don't try and initiate a lot of new stuff. Don't try and sort of get out there in the world at this point. Focus on what's the soil that you need to nurture those new things. So you might look at things like in a social context, you might be looking at, okay, I want to move this forward, but I don't have all of the people in place. Excuse me, I don't know what frog in my throat. One moment. Maybe it's similar to me. Perhaps I should have paid more attention to the Bacano rune there with the problem that I was having, that I was trying to solve this problem, but I didn't have the right collaborator to do it. So Bacano is saying you may well feel the energy trying to push up and come through, but let it rest, let it tend, and just think about, what energy do I need to bring to this? Do I have all of the resources that I need? What are the steps that I need to put into place that are going to allow that growth to come through? Yeah, I think that's that one for you there, Troy. Who knows? We might come back to Bacano later. And then Suzanne, you have Rado. So Suzanne's going to be picking up on the recording later. Rado, the rune of rhythm. It's the rune of astrology, actually, and at the moment we're doing some lovely stuff which in the Birth Rune Soul Journey group, we're doing deep dives into each of the planets at the moment. We're going to be doing Urd's chariot this afternoon, which I'm very excited about. And Rado really does bring this sense of I'm almost hearing like a chime, like the series of chimes as you go through the different planets, and you can either sort of swoosh through them and they form a single resonant harmony, or you can do them one at a time and you can hear those individual pieces there. And it feels to me as if the Rado rune is saying it's a one step at a time, allowing yourself to be fully in this moment, and then build on the next step and the next step. So there's almost a sense to me of you don't need to worry about the things that you're currently, if you're anxious about certain things, you're thinking, I'm not moving fast enough with certain things, they're not moving forward in the way that I want to. It's saying that's because you're on a journey, so you're moving forward. So each step that you take takes you closer to the next step, but you can't rush them. You can't sort of leap from one to the next, and you can't do them in an order that isn't the right order. And again, this is very in keeping with this time, where we have to let each piece fall in place as they want to. Now, I'm very aware of that with my I work with a group. Some of you know I work with a group every Monday, and we set our intentions, and then we come back with each other. And I know that for me, normally that for me is gold. You know, is what the intentions that I've set, I work on them, they're there, they sort of magically alchemize inside, and they always come to pass. That hasn't happened for the last 2 weeks, and that's really unusual for me. And I feel as if I'm trying to open into those lessons of saying, my conscious mind might want me to do stuff, but my subconscious knows better. You know? And normally they're working in partnership with each other more, collaboratively, but at the moment my subconscious is in the lead, and I just need to trust it and know that it's going to, the right steps will fall as they need to. So I feel as if that's the case for you, Suzanne, that it's talking about the radar rune. It's saying one step at a time, trust the journey, trust the process. Then Ren and Shanita, you both have the same rune, which is the Algiz rune, which is lovely. So you are preparing for the 28th, for Thursday, when the Algiz rune will come into its own. And it is that sense of, you know, if you're going to be doing any form of oracular practice, this is a great time to be deepening into that, to be looking at doing your daily rune or your daily oracle, using those as a springboard for the rest of your day. Or remember that I teach as the real fundamentals of working with your runes, to do your rune of the day or your rune of the week, and to ask that question, which rune is going to support me the most through the course of this week, and to work with it energetically, as well as maybe looking for it in the world around you. You can look for it in terms of its shape. You can look for it in terms of, oh, you know, there was some support offered at the time that I was looking for it. So it's like a questing journey, more than a, now this tells me what's going to happen through the course of the week. You know, they ask us to collaborate with them, to say, if you trust me as a partner for you through the course of the week, not as a predictor, but as a partner. You know, we were talking about the Valkyria and the fylgja and the fetch at the earlier in the session. It's a bit like that. It's a bit like deepening into a spirit guide. So treat the runes or your oracles or whatever it is that you work on through the course of this week as spirit guides for you, and see what comes up. So then we have Carolyn, and Carolyn, you have Algiz, the rune of water. And I'm feeling water in different states at this point. So I can feel, it's all I'm seeing is like literally images as I'm trying to deepen into what is the rune coming, and I can hear rushing water, I can hear a bubbling brook, I can feel subterranean streams that are very quiet but powerful, geysers with water that is literally like sort of turning to vapor, or is incredibly hot, the water that's turned into ice. It's all of these different forms, and I think it's asking you to recognize the way in which the Algiz force, which can represent healing, it can represent intuition, it can represent psychic insight. It is the fertility of mind, fertility of emotions, fertility of the land, the bridge between life and death, the way in which things are always in flow, and our knowledge and our understanding and ideas are always in flow. But it's recognizing that within them, they can appear in different forms. So it's looking for that energy of Algiz through the course of this week. That a moment of stillness where we think, well, I don't feel as if I'm in flow at all, I'm sort of sitting there, can actually be, it can be a Algiz moment. It can just be the water in stillness, the stillness of ice, where it's very clear and crystalline, as opposed to the stillness of the stagnant water. And these are two very different feelings. And I feel as if it is about mastery of your own energetic body in that sense, and recognizing that our energies can be as complex and as beautiful and as subtle as the Algiz energy, and that sometimes what we feel as being stagnation is actually stillness and waiting, and sometimes what we feel as the rush and the flow can be a moment of surrender to the water, or sometimes it can be a moment of needing to step back, and that's that mastery piece. So it's bringing real curiosity to the ebbs and flows of your own energy, your own ideas as they come through. You know, we've been talking about this opening to ideas and creativity and dreams, and yeah, it's almost like you're thinking about yourself as a landscape that eddies and flows, and where there are currents and where there is stillness, and being okay with that. So there's nothing wrong with any of that. It is simply the way that the water operates all of the time. So slightly sort of esoteric, energetic piece for you there, Carolyn. And Marie, you have Ansuz today. Oh, I've turned all of my runes the wrong way around. There we go. So Ansuz, again, we have a movement with Ansus. And I was talking last week, I think it was, about the way in which Ansus has a dual nature, because it's both the rune of the wildness and also the rune of order. Breathing into that for you, Marie, I'm feeling the feathers of the Valkyrie coming down and being around you and forming almost like a safe cocoon. I'm thinking about you when you're sleeping and imagining the feathers of the Valkyrie. Not as, sometimes we can see them as being very fierce, but the swan women can bring so many different aspects. Again, this is so much about multiplicity today, I think. They can be protectors, they can be guides, they can offer comfort and solace, they can be stands for us in our power as well, saying, here I am, I will be the protector. If you think about the swan, they are incredibly powerful. I think, if I remember rightly, but I've read this in a children's book, so who knows, they are strong enough to break a grown man's leg with their wings. So they're very fierce protectors, remembering the Algiz rune as well. So the Ansus rune is channeling that. So I feel as if for you it is about reconnecting, perhaps with spirit guides that you already know. This isn't necessarily about, it's going to be like a swan woman. It's about what that represents, protection, ideas, guidance. And again, we're doing just a little bit of looking backwards, but not because we're moving backwards, because we're just saying, what do I need in order to move forwards? So there is a sense for me of honouring your spirit guides and of inviting them in. I'm not seeing you, I don't know if you have a porch, but I'm not seeing you on your porch, and maybe if you have any feathers, having those by the door, almost like you're inviting in those guiding spirits, and you're using the feather as a symbol of that. Share, you have Algiz as well, so we've got 3 people with Algiz already. Very powerful energy at the moment. Is there anything else that wants to come through with the Algiz rune? Ooh, I'm feeling a little bit of a combination between Algiz and Dargaz for you, Cher, because it's the way in which Algiz can sometimes work. It can be in a very nice way, not in a very nice way sometimes, a trickster rune, because it can offer protection. I've mentioned before that it's a protector rune. And similar to Dargaz, it has this ability to sort of play with light. Dargaz, we can use it either to be seen, to be very visible, or we can use it to be invisible. We can use it as a shield to protect us. If we're walking at night, those sorts of things is really helpful for that. So we can blaze forth, or we can be in shadow and in dark. Then Algiz offers something similar, almost like that effervescent rainbow light, that ability to not quite be seen, to be a little bit mysterious sometimes, to reveal only those parts of ourselves that we feel safe to do. So I think that's what the Algiz rune is inviting you into at the moment, Cher. It's to say, in circumstances where you might perhaps feel uncomfortable, or that they feel new in some way, that the Algiz rune can help to mediate that, so that you don't have to put on the whole Dargaz shield of saying, I'm totally invisible, no one can see me. You can work with the Algiz rune instead and offer that. It's very gentle. What's the word that I'm looking for? Work with the hide, which is your energy body, so that you aren't saying, I'm invisible. You're saying, I am protected but present, is what the Algiz rune invites. You can imagine that sort of shimmering rainbow energy just at the very edges of your energy body, so that other people are feeling, oh, that's Cher, she's lovely, she's great, but you're not opening yourself up fully. You're not in that place of vulnerability yet. So that's what I'm going with for you there, Cher. And then Candice, you put your Dargaz rune there, so maybe that's why I was picking up on that. So perhaps there's a little bit for that for you as well, Candice, because I know that we've already done the Dargaz rune. Esther, you have hit Algiz for the week. It's the 4th person with Algiz. It's strong, isn't it? Strong there with Algiz. I'm just hearing those feathers again, Esther. So I'm going to suggest that you listen actually to what I said for Marie, even though hers was about Ansus. Feel into that in terms of protection. And I feel that is also not just about protection for you, but if you are working with somebody else, if there is any form of conflict or need for mediation, or there is a challenge there, It's almost like the Algiz rune becomes the higher self. You know, for those of you, different context to the northern tradition, but the idea of the higher self, which sometimes the Valkyria, which is not quite the same as the Valkyrie, it's like our own inner essence. The Algiz energy can channel that, so you can say, okay, this is not going well. My higher self speaks to their higher self. Imagine those feathers like opening out in the Algiz rune. I've got the Anses rune here now instead of Algiz. The Algiz rune, you know, with that the standing and the arms up. Imagine that those are no longer arms; they are wings. You know, so they're wings. They're protecting you. They're protecting the other person. They're helping you to move into harmony there. So we're going to add that into our Algiz hoard for the day. And Erica, you have a thala. Thank you, Esther, for bringing Erica's rune. Apologies, maybe I missed that in the group. Much appreciated, Esther, you bringing that forward. So here we have the Athala rune. And I am picking up here again, because we've had such a strong Algiz current, there's Athala is nuanced by that Algiz current. So this is about ancestral spirits. Similar to what I was saying with Esther around working with the higher self energy, working with the energy of Algiz that represents, as a means of connecting even more strongly into the spirit guides of your ancestors. So it's the Athala rune, but it's the sort of the spiritual end of the Athala rune, because the Athala rune can be very earthy, can be very grounded. It can often be about our land and our hearths and our legacy. But this is about spiritual legacy and spiritual connection for me. And maybe about thinking, is there a practice that I can bring in more fully around inviting in, perhaps doing a little bind rune of the Athala rune and the Algiz rune. If you imagine, you could have the central pillar, or what can I do, of the Algiz rune down the centre there of the Athala rune, and they come together and they would form this shape of union across time between us and the ancestors past and future, through the Algiz rune and the Athala rune, and through giving utterance to that. So it might be about some form of ritual practice for yourself to introduce through the course of the year. Then we have Chen. Hi Chen, you have got Suelo, the rune of the sun. Lovely Suelo. I'm feeling a warmth coming through, which is very welcome. It's really freezing in here, even though I've got my heater on. It's coming up through my solar plexus. Actually, it's attaching quite nicely down into the earth. It's a really nice positive energy there for you, Chen. So that's actually what I would focus on for you, is saying the Suelo rune is offering you access to that deep nurturing energy. Although the Suelo rune is the rune of the sun, it guides us, and it guides us to wherever we need to go. And for you, I'm feeling a very strong earth connection, doing this practice regularly, maybe before bed, imagining your energetic roots going down into the earth and reaching down deep into the earth. You know, I've done this meditation many times with many of you before, where they go down into the earth and they coil themselves around the sort of molten gold heart of the earth, and then you start to breathe that energy up. And what's important is allowing that to connect to all of the energy centers. So if you work with the chakras, you can work with the chakras. If you work with energy centers across the body, or nadirs, I think they're called as well, you can work with them. Soles of the feet seem important. The base chakra seems important. Sacral seems important. And the solar plexus seems important to me. But just allow that golden earth energy to carry on, to rise up through your system. And the Suelo rune is offering that at the moment. It's saying that's really important before you set sail. You know how we've been talking about how we'll have Sigatiba on the full moon, on the 5th of February. And that's the sort of voyaging out time. But again, it's saying before we do that, there comes a point in every captain's life where things are, a bit challenging and a bit tricky, and it'll be everything that they have done up until that point. All of the preparations that they've made, all of the experience they have, and the faith that they've gathered in, all of these are really important for the moments of testing. So get yourself ready and work on that, and really connect into that warmth and that nourishing. Almost a reminder that, if you think about old Humla, the primal cow goddess, I suppose you could call her, who nurtured everything. And I always feel her energy as being the source of star energy, the source of the sun, the source of the molten heart of the earth, and all of these things come together, and Suelo is born through her. So, before we can voyage out alone, we connect into what's bigger than us. Lauren, hello. I am well, thank you. Your rune is Nornir, but the rune was upside down and on its blank side first. So thank you, because it's really helpful that when a rune appears and it's face down, so you can't see the rune, obviously you want to read it. If you're doing a big rune reading, there'll be a context to that. But one of the general rules of thumb that I found quite helpful is that these tend to be hidden influences that we are less aware of coming to the surface. Obviously, every rune reading you're looking for some advice and guidance, but you might get a rune that's come up repeatedly, and it's just because I'm fully aware of the issue. The rune is like, I know you're fully aware, but you still need to do healing on this, or you still need to do transformation work on this or that. If it comes blank side first, it's normally something that you are less cognizant of at the time. So you might need to do a little bit more work in going, oh, what might this mean? It's going to ask you to dig just a little bit. So we've got the Nornir rune, which is a fire rune like Suelo. And when I pick Nornir, often what I will try and do is, the first thing I'll do is I'll check in with my energy body, because normally it's very clear where it needs us to work. But as I was feeling through my energy body, it actually was feeling quite good. I didn't feel I often get something around the solar plexus area, or in the torso in general, or down in the pelvic bowl for the Nornir rune. It's sort of a gnawing feeling, but I'm not getting that. I'm feeling, and I've had to dig quite strongly for this, I'm feeling it at the back of my, almost like at the back of my throat, from the lungs and going up into the neck. And it feels to me as if it's self-expression. It feels to me as if there is something that needs to be expressed. It's actually a necessity that needs to be expressed. It might be feelings or emotions as it's Nornir, but not necessarily. It might be an idea that you want to bring out, and that you're waiting for the right person to speak it to, or you're thinking, is that too big, or I don't want to go there. So it's giving yourself space to voice that. Now, if you're on Illuminate, we're going to be doing some wild voice writing, so it could be that that's a release process that you could use for this. But if you don't have that, what I would suggest is find yourself some help with this, of whatever. Speak to a healer, speak to whoever that you need to dig into. There's something unexpressed inside that wants to come to the surface, and I want to bring it to the surface, and I want to do it safely. And what the Nornir are intended is, because it's upside down as well, it's saying it's like these competing parts of you. There's one part that knows that it needs to come out, and there's another part that's saying, I don't feel safe doing that, or I don't think that will be good for how is it going to be received, that it's hesitant, and the two are pressing against each other. And it's quite subtle. It's almost like an old, I was talking about how these old woundings can be there, and the experience of the time, we could have done all of the healing work for them and feel like, that's done and that's past, and yet they leave marks upon us. Not bad necessarily, but they can be activated when something new comes through. So it might be that that's what I'm feeling here, is because it doesn't feel like really raw. It feels as if something that wants to come through has got stuck in an old thing, and it just needs a little bit of help to, literally, for birthing, the points of birthing. So I hope that is helpful for you there, Lauren. Michelle, good morning. You have Wunyo upside down, the Wunyo rune of joy and transformation. There's a little bit going on there. I have to think it was manifestation as well. So there's the Wunyo rune upside down. This is what it looks like the right way up. Does not look like a W, which people go, oh, it's actually a W and a V, so it's like a V sound, V, when you think about the Vunyo rune. But with it upside down here, it's like this here. Now, what this suggests to me is, for those of you who've done symbol rites with me, you know that we say Vunyo at the end of the symbol rite, and it's like a seal. It's like it seals the promise or the commitment or the gratitude or the boast with joy. And what is being suggested to me with your upside down Vunyo rune is it's saying, don't take decisions that you don't need to through the course of this week. Don't get pushed into things. If you're somebody who struggles with saying no, this is a good time to practice saying, let me think about this. I just need a little bit of time to think about it, and then going away and rehearsing the saying no. It's not necessarily about, I need to say no to everything and it will be forever. It's just about recognizing maybe that you have already used all of your resources at this point. You don't have a lot of energy to give to other things, and if you try and give your energy to too many things, you won't be able to achieve any of them, and then you won't get that feeling of joy. There's a real, be gentle with yourself, go lightly with yourself. Almost as well a recognition that at different times, different things can give us joy. And when people say, go and find joy, and you think, I've got to go and do something really zingy. And the Vunyo rune is saying, you know what, if lying down on your bed under the duvet brings you joy, do that. Don't do it for too long. What you want to do is to actually fully commit to whatever it is that you want to do. Commit to it and say you're going to do it. So I'm going to go and lie down under my duvet, and I'm going to do it for 20 minutes. So I'm going to set my timer, I'm going to finish at the end of 20 minutes, and then I'm going to get up and I'm going to have a glass of water and see how I feel then. It's a very, very gentle process of self-nurturing and nourishment. It feels to me as if there's something else in there which is just getting a little bit stuck, which is why I'm hesitating. I can't think what it is. It's like this greyish, slightly cobwebby energy that's coming through. It doesn't feel unpleasant. It feels quite peaceful in some way. And I wonder whether it's almost like recognising, I think it's like a cocoon or a chrysalis. That's what I'm feeling. It's like, I want to be in the cocoon or the chrysalis. And it's just saying, stay in there then. Stay in there. And then give yourself a time when you're going to venture out. I was saying, get up, have a glass of water, and check out the surroundings. And if it's not right, then go back in. It's that feeling. So it's saying, don't stay fully in the cocoon or chrysalis, because you're not a moth. You can go out, but recognise that you can return when it's ready. We've been talking a lot about timeliness and being ready in the moment. So that's what this one is about, it feels like to me. So yeah, that's what I was waiting for, is that sort of cocoon chrysalis energy. And then Meggie, you have the Algiz rune, which is interestingly, as I was looking at Michelle's Vunyo rune, I realised that one of the runes had fallen down. And I was like, oh, and I looked down and it was your Algiz rune down there. So something a little bit unexpected, a little bit off-piste, something to pay attention to or to notice. It might be that there's an opportunity lurking there in the background, that if you don't give yourself time, you won't notice it. So there's a lot of mindfulness, paying attention through the course of this week and looking for opportunities in unexpected places. And if you see them, again, maybe similarly to Michelle in some way, that you can give yourself time to check them out. You don't have to be like, yes, I will immediately do the thing because the Algiz rune told me to, and I've seen the seed. It's you can still go, oh, so somebody has said I'd love to do a collaboration with me, or this opportunity has come up. You can still explore it as the possibility of a seed that you might sow through the year. There's an exercise that's come to my mind that one of my teachers got me to do. It was a really interesting exercise. It's on money, but you don't have to do it on money. You can do it on opportunities more broadly. And we've been talking about dreams and bringing forth dreams. So she did this exercise to me, and she's a bit like, it was when I was setting up my business, and I had to do it much faster than I had planned. And she just said, just sit and write down 50 ways you could make money right now. And I was like, 50? And she's like, yeah, you do it, you'll be fine. you know, and you start off and you're like all of the expected ways that you can do it, and then you're like, oh, you know, I could sell that crystal, or I could go and volunteer and I could do that, and that will save money in this way. I could not buy that. I could just go and do that thing that I've got a qualification for that I've never done anything with it. It's that sort of thing. It's like a brainstorming. So I think that the Ingu's rune is saying, yeah, do some. It's not just about opportunities that might be outside of you. It might be stuff that's lurking inside. So have a look at doing like a 50 things that I could do this year. You know, have a go with that and then see what comes through. It's just opening up to possibilities at this point, Maggie. Lisa, you have Ewaz. Ewaz again. And that's actually a really nice energy for you. I've been talking about Algiz and that rune of the Valkyria, of the fylgja, of the fetch coming through. And Ewaz is the other rune that connects us to those partnerships, to our spirit partnerships. It does it in a more intimate, like visceral, embodied way than Algiz. So Algiz tends to be like spirit guidance that's coming from externally, and it comes in and it supports us. Ewaz is that real partnership, an intimate partnership. It feels to me like greeting old friends. It feels to me like recognizing that we can have spirit guides who come and go because there's a purpose behind them, and we can have spirit guides who are with us because they love us, you know, and we love them and we have a relationship with them. Feels to me as if there is an honouring of that, Lisa, and also perhaps a distinction in general between, there will be some people who come forward in your life and you are with them for a purpose. It is purpose that unites you, and that's a great and wonderful thing. And that when that purpose is done, you then separate your ways, and that's okay. There will be some people for whom it's relationship, you know, and being with them fulfills a need in you, and being with you fulfills a need in them. And that is a beautiful and wonderful thing. And even those friendships can change sometimes as well. You know, you can shift and change and evolve. Sometimes you get the combination of both. But it's almost a question of, it's almost saying similar to Meggie in some ways, but in a different context. It's saying, do a review, maybe, you know, 10 people or beings like a day or something like that, where that you feel into the relationship that has been and what it was based on, what were its foundations in, and then you celebrate them, and you either say, I would like more of that, or you say, I'm open to the new. I'm open to the new. So it's doing that with relationships. Sally Ann, good morning, lovely rune readers everywhere. So you have Isa, so we've got that still energy. I'm reminded of Carolyn when I was talking about water, wasn't I? And ice came up, this stillness of Isa. I feel as if Isa is talking about its own nature a little bit here. So Isa is a wonderful rune for us to use. I've talked a little bit about the energy body. And when we want to be in embodied sort of success or stability or strength or those qualities of Isa, when we want that, it brings personal magnetism, the Isa rune. When we do our Isa empowerment exercise, you know, daily, we increase our magnetism, we increase our mystery, and our presence comes through very strongly with the Isa rune. But what the Isa rune wanted to say to you is, if you're in tune with Isa, one of the downfall sides to watch for is that it means that not only are you inviting its energy into you so that you become all glowy and present and amazing looking, but you're more in tune with the Isa energy of people around you. So you notice the things that make them appear shiny and confident and magnificent and wonderful. And what that can do is to make us feel insignificant and small and like, oh, I'm not good enough, look how shiny they are. And the Isa rune is almost saying, yeah, get over me. You know, it's a little bit of that sort of, when you see others doing great things and being wonderful and being great, that is a reflection of you, you know, that you can only recognize that greatness and magnificence in them because that is in you. You know, that's what the Isa rune is saying. Who am I to deny the Isa rune, the truth of the Isa rune there? Because it's a very reflective rune. it holds the perils of, and we can be feeling brilliant one moment and then feeling like we're cracking the next, because that's the nature of ice. It holds a lot of weight, it bears a lot of weight, and then it just cracks when it becomes too much. And so it's that the Issa rune is reminding you to tread gently with it. It's one of the reasons why I absolutely love the Issa embodiment exercise, but I do now balance it when I work on the Issa rune. And I do the embodiment exercise if I'm doing that regularly, and it's a really good practice. It's great for building confidence. I follow that rune exercise with the Suelo rune, which is almost the counter of that. It's also a rune of confidence, of self-leadership and navigation, but it's all about movements. You move your hips, you're moving your body, you're moving in flow, and through that the Issa rune energy softens, and we become more flexible, and we become less likely to judge ourselves. And the light of the Suelo rune keeps us and holds us inside, and reminds us of our own light, and that we're following our own path, and that all that we learn from another person who we're feeling like, oh, they're doing loads of brilliant stuff and I couldn't possibly ever do that, is there's a part of you that wants to. No, because if there wasn't a part of you that didn't want to, you wouldn't be feeling that way. Issa and Suelo as partners together. So yeah, the power of the Issa rune holds its shadow very close to it. So just be careful of that when you work with it. And it is suggesting that it wants to work with you and to feel that presence and that power. But recognize that as it does that, it's going to bring up stuff at the same time. As we rise, the fear of falling becomes greater. Candice is very much looking forward to the retreat ceremonies. Yay, so am I. I know, I prefer cake month to mud month. We can have both. We can have both, can't we? It's also sometimes referred to as kale month, which means cabbage month. Yay. So obviously, well, I suppose reasonably, there's a real focus on food at this time, which would be the case, wouldn't it, when you're living off the land and you can't go to Asda and buy a tin of beans. Would be, yes, we need cabbage, we need cake, and will the mud ever become soil so we can grow in it again? Michelle says, yes, my Wunya rune presented as the opportunity to explore the rotation of the rune during this lunar month. Wonderful. Oh, well, that's great. Well, enjoy that, Michelle. Lisa says, it's possible they were gritty cakes that were buried before the first planting. Yes, preserved. That's a very good point, Lisa. Yeah, you've really helped me there, because I was thinking about what sort of cake would they be eating. I was thinking, I bet you anything it's preserved cake. I was thinking about like the bird food cakes you get, like those fat balls. But yeah, because it would need to be something that would keep. Iwaz for Carol. So with I was feeling about Iwaz earlier, and actually I want to bring you back to the piece that I was talking about earlier in the session, when we were talking about the way in which we are shaped by our experiences. And once we have processed what feels like wounding, we recognize that we have been reshaped by an experience, and that we are different because of that experience. And there is a need with the Iwaz rune to step into that power and recognize, no, I am now a different shape. I am now for a different purpose. I am now channeling energy in different ways through my system, and to claim that power. So Carol, for you, I would suggest just spending a little bit of time thinking about that, about thinking about what your experiences have offered you in terms of standing in sovereignty, in terms of the understanding of the way the world works, in terms of your personal resilience, in terms of your capacity for compassion and love out in the world. And I always is saying, imagine yourself, we talk about like it's sort of like a tree. Imagine yourself as like a sculpted tree, or a beautiful artwork, with clay and jewels and bits of wood and metal that has been forged. And that it's, I suppose, similar to Sally Ann with the Issa rune, that when we sort of step away from the thing that makes us go, I can't possibly claim that, or everyone has had an experience like that, or no, that was, no, who am I to? Anytime we feel that who am I to energy, the Iwaz rune is saying a staff wouldn't say, well, I look strong, but I can't possibly be as strong as I really look, can I? No, it just wouldn't. It would just, well, I'm a staff. You know, this, the ego, which we have as human beings, is both a great blessing. You know, it's supposed to be there. It's designed to help us to carry story. We are story carriers, and that's what we do. But it can also be a curse when we believe all of those stories and we choose the ones that make us small. So the Iwaz rune is saying, stand in your power, root within that power, claim that power, so that you are ready for the energies of the new year to come rushing through you. You know? So just a little bit of looking backwards there in order to move forwards. Candy says, thank you so much for the wisdom. So helpful, as I have felt like I've been going 2 steps forward and then 2 steps back. So good. Dargos will help you with that. Carolyn always says, a valuable inspiration to start the week. Hooray! I'm checking the Illuminate offer. Oh, good. I'm glad. Actually, very good point. So just a little bit of housekeeping for you. So I know that a lot of people who are eligible for the discount that I offered for Illuminate, so that's people who are on the current Awaken cohort or have already signed up for 23-24, people who are on Mastery, and people who are on annual membership of the Half Space. I know that a lot of people have said, I really, really want to come to Illuminate, but, excuse me, it's the end of the month. Can you extend the offer? So the answer is yes, I can extend the offer. So I'm going to be sending out an email to those of you who are eligible to extend that discount offer. For those of you who don't have the discount because you're not on another program with me, another year-long program with me for this year, the retreat is £120, which is a great offer for what is going to be a wonderful voyage into drawing up those dreams, those things that are half forming, that guidance from spirit, that where could I be going, what could the year be offering to me, and what energies do I need to draw in order to do that. So there is still time to book onto Illuminate. It starts on Monday next week. I'm very excited about it, and we are going to be doing a little bit more work around the Sigatiba as well, working with the energy of the sailor going out into the deep. So I'm really looking forward to that. Other pieces of housekeeping. So for those of you on Suna's Star Wheel, you'll be getting this week your planetary movements for the month ahead, and I will be looking to, again, you're going to be having your audio talk about the month ahead, and I am going to be doing the soul care meditation that comes along with that. I'm going to do that separately, so you're going to have 2 recordings so you can more easily access your soul care recording as well. So look out for that coming through. And just to say, we are in our final week of working with Jan Saxa, the fabulous giantess. So if you want to receive her energy, the classes that we've done, the circles that we've done, they are available to you already. And we are going to be working with Heimdall through February, so I'm really looking forward to deepening into a month of working with the bridge keeper of the northern tradition. And my personal request is I want to know more about his 9 mothers, so that is coming too. Oh, and I can see that we've got some more in here as well. So Carolyn, thank you for mentioning that piece about Illuminate there. Marie, feathers are featured for me this week, so go and focus on reconnecting with your spirit guides. Wonderful. Amy, oh hello, so you have got Thurisaz with the, let's see if I can find Thurisaz for you. It's a very powerful rune, Thurisaz. There's a little bit of, if you have stuff that you need to get done this week, Amy, then excuse me, then I would be looking to use your Thurisaz rune to harness it. I can feel again that warmth. Do you remember I had that warmth with Chen? It was with her Suwello rune, wasn't it? It's almost like the heart beating, that sort of thumping sound. So when you feel that moment of excitement, that little flicker of excitement in the heart, listen to it. Don't underestimate what you can get done this week harnessing that power of Thurisaz. It's strong for you at this point. So all of the stuff that I've been saying about, hold back, don't do too much, it's all floating about, Thurisaz for you counters that. So there is a holding boundaries piece, I would say, definitely around conserving energy still, because we're still in that space of conservation. But you can use your Thurisaz rune as the hammer, as Mjolnir's hammer, to swing the Thurisaz rune and to hold that energy space for you. If you are in the hearth space, I can't remember whether you are or not, Amy, there is a workshop in 2021 in the 2021 Circles Library in January 2021 when we worked with Thor. The Hammer of Thor workshop was included as a gift as part of that, so you could do that if you're a member of the half space there, to have a play with that. Lauren says, thanks, it's very helpful, and it's true there's something I want to express but nobody to share it with, so I battle with myself. Oh, and your throat is hurting too. I'm sorry about that. So what I would suggest, Lauren, is if you are struggling that you don't know have anybody to share with, one of the things that you could do is call on your own personal guides at this point, because you don't want your throat to be hurting. Start off by writing down what you want to express. And if you feel like, oh, I can't even, leave it there, you can burn it afterwards and you can offer it to your own spirit guides to start that process, and that will start to loosen what's at the back of the throat there, Lauren. Okay, so I hope that's helpful for you. Maggie said, I'll be definitely trying the exercise. Good. And Candice is saying, I see that as a very enlightening point that you understand now. Good. Lisa, I have one main animal guide, but several that come and go. Algiz is my sun rune. Oh, how lovely. So, yeah. Interesting that we were talking about some that come and go and the one that stays in. So perhaps maybe for you that is on honouring particularly the permanent one. And Esther is saying that it's my sun rune too. Hello and greetings to all the Algiz sun rune people out there. I know, Esther, you already have your Algiz Awakening package, but so that you are aware, if you want to know what your sun rune is and you don't know what it is, or if you want to have a lovely module that awakens you to the energies of your sun rune, you can look on the Megan Rose website. You can look under runic astrology, or you can look under birth runes. And I've got my sun rune packages on there so that you can purchase your sun rune package, which has its power song, its meditations, its stories, all there in a package for you to explore and discover if you want to deepen into your sun rune. Sally Ann says, get over it, I love that reflective rune. Yes to the cracking at times. On my rune this morning I stopped scared as there were loud bangs and the ice began splitting and chunks moving out of the water. I now see after picking the Isa up that perhaps it was telling me to begin to thaw a little at the underwater flow. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Sally Ann. Often it is, the runes are very literal sometimes. And they're like, yeah, what's happening externally? Use that and work with that. Yes, Candice, I'm very happy. It was you, wasn't it, who suggested that I put the soul care meditation separately. So I will be doing that moving forward. So many magical things coming through. Yes, I'm very excited for the year ahead. And Lauren says, thank you, I'll definitely do that. I used to have a guide, but we fell out. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Well, there are always guides around you, Lauren. You can call on your Disir circle, your circle of feminine ancestral spirits. They are always there for us. You could speak to your fetch, even if you don't know who they are, your companion spirit. Often some people, we just know that they're there, but we don't always communicate directly with them, and that's fine. Just know that it is the spirits who protect you and guide you in this time. Write to them, write to them as if they're your best friend. And know that they see you and they love you in everything that you are. So there is nothing that you can write that they won't absolutely receive as part of your divine self. So with that in mind, thank you everybody who has joined me. It has been lovely to see all of you. I will put the things that I've discussed, the sun rune package, Illuminate, into the blog post that we put up, which includes this video in it. So you can go to meganrose.com. You can see everything that I've talked about is on the website, but I'll put them into the blog post as well, so you can see that there. Lovely to see all of you. I will see you all next Monday, and some of you before.